Mine was a little bit more, it was the first time that I had really felt a lot of fear, I think, in the backcountry. So I was out, I had a muzzleloader tag for an elk this last year, and we had I was out with my dad, and we had hiked all day up and down these ridges. I mean, we had put on 9 miles going straight up and straight down mountains, and I actually missed. I was about 230 yards away from the elk before the wind shifted, and then they were gone, unfortunately. And so on our hike back, and that was around dusk time frame, and so on our way back, we cruised down really this super steep gully. Like this, it was actually nerve-wracking to go down. But I had a couple of, I don't know, like the hair on the back of my neck stood up at one point on my way down. And so I glassed around with my headlamp, and there were like 3 or 4 sets of eyes kind of moving around. And I was like, oh, they're deer. It's no problem. It's no problem. It was not a deer.
Newsflash.
Yeah, shocker. And so, and both my dad and I got like a little bit nervous, but also just kind of stuck together a little bit more and continued down. But one of them had flanked us, came around front, and was maybe 15 yards away. And have you ever seen, anyway, it was a mountain lion. Have you ever seen a cat like move their head, like trying to get the depth perception?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Their head. That's what the eyeballs were doing.
Oh.
I have never in my life gone from like, this is a intense hike back to like, this is bad. This could be very bad news.
Okay, with us today we have Carlee Koutnik, who's the program manager of Artemis, and we also have one of their ambassadors, who is Ashlyn Halseth. So thank you both for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We're happy to be here.
Yes, so we were actually lucky enough to run into Ashlyn. She came to one of our turkey workshops a couple weeks ago, and she stayed after and kind of told us a little bit more about Artemis. We have heard about you guys before, and you guys have been on a list of people we wanted to reach out to and actually have on the podcast. So when she showed up, we were like, awesome, we can actually talk to one of you guys. So she was an ambassador visiting from Ohio. She's going to school here now, and she was able to hook us up with the program manager, which is Carlee. So if you guys just want to tell us a little bit about what Artemis is, and then we'll go kind of into your guys' backgrounds and how you all became a part of it as well.
It's all you, Ashlyn.
Alrighty. So Artemis is a program within National Wildlife Federation. It consists of 8 leadership positions, with Carlee being one of them, and about 60 ambassadors, which is where my role fits in. One of the main goals of Artemis is to establish communities in local area with among women identifying individuals and non-binary individuals. So where we fit within like the R3 program specifically is our main focus is on the retention aspect of that. So we just want to create a network of individuals that we can provide a bunch of education and outreach opportunities, and also take the individuals that join our program and help them build their advocacy and leadership roles.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm so happy you guys exist. That's
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. That's just such a cool mission. You know, we've seen a lot of the hunting community and a lot of this market research come out that women are by far the fastest growing group of people engaged in outdoor recreation, whether it's archery, hunting, fishing's even following the same trends. I'm not sure if trapping is.
Our stats.
Yeah.
All the things we were going to drop.
Yeah. But it's such a unique opportunity because there's this natural growth that's been occurring, and it's time to capitalize on that. And especially in a state like Illinois, where access and opportunity is a big challenge for a lot of people, it's really neat to see, you know, some of that social capital return to, you know, the hunting community in Illinois. So I really love what you guys are doing and what, you know, what that mission that you basically just described is. That's so cool.
Artemis is a great program to be a part of.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, how long has it been a program?
So it originated, I believe it kickstarted in 2017, but it has been kind of slowly growing. And so 2019 was really the first year on the ground. And then 2020 is when we first welcomed ambassadors to the table.
Ah,
Yeah, so it's definitely been progressive in nature. Like we're moving forward and we are definitely growing. And it's so far been a very, very impressive program. There's definitely a need for it in the space of the most rapidly growing population of hunters and anglers. And yeah, we're happy to help fill that gap for sportswomen.
sure, sure.
Mhm. For sure. So then how does the ambassador side work? So you have your main staff and then you have ambassadors that you guys have set up. And then you guys have members too, that people who can join that don't have to be ambassadors, or how's that structure like?
So I'll let Ashlyn cover down a little bit more on the ambassador aspect, but from a membership standpoint, these are usually our participants and the folks that that are in some way engaging with Artemis, usually through our social media outlets or our newsletter. And so they are maybe less engaged in regards to the planning and the programmatic standpoint, whereas our ambassadors really are the backbone to what we do. So I guess to complement Ashlyn's like the structure of Artemis, what she said earlier is we have 8 leadership team members, but then we have an additional 2 staff. And so the leadership is that advisory board, and then the 2 staff are myself and Ashley Chance. And so we've got our advisory committee, right? We have our staff, we have our bulk, which are our ambassadors. And then lastly, we've got our membership, which is anywhere ranging from, I think right now we've got 14,000 members or so on our mailing list and social media channels collectively.
Mhm.
So we're definitely growing, and
That's good growth. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, since like 2020 is when you guys had your ambassadors out, so it's 3 years of
Yeah.
really operations, and then and COVID in the middle of all that
Right.
as
No
well.
kidding.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I mean, like I said, our ambassadors are really the backbone of what we do. And I'll let Ashlyn really explain a little bit more about what the role of an ambassador is and what she does for Artemis. But ultimately, it's that really we're looking for that community piece and that networking component to keep women in the hunting and fishing space.
I really like that you both have kind of mentioned this retention side of things. Obviously here at Learn to Hunt, we do focus a little heavily on the recruitment side of things, but obviously we do dabble into, the retention. But it's so interesting to me to see a program that really is structured to focus on, that retention. And like you guys said, maintaining that social capital and connecting and networking to allow people to, bounce ideas back and forth, to plan trips together. I think that's a really unique model that I'm not sure I've seen in the R3 community, to date. That's really neat.
Well, and another, I guess, quick plug on that is that yes, we're focused on retention, but also there's definitely space for beginners in Artemis as well. So we're not exclude like we try not to exclude really anybody. If you are interested in hunting, we want you to be a lifelong learner. We want you to further develop your skills. Ashlyn and I were talking yesterday, and that's one of the reasons I found Artemis appealing was that it was a competent, skilled group of women who were intentional about building and developing a community, and that also had knowledge and you could learn from them, but not from a I guess crawl versus walk versus run, right? We're already walking and into the running phase, and so we're all pacing each other, which is really fascinating.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just looked at the folks that you had, at least bios on the website, and I think everyone who's a part of your organization has an extremely interesting resume. I mean, you guys came from all over the place. You've done so many different things, and you're all so well versed. I mean, having that as a resource, as the backbone already to go from there is really impressive.
So Ashley, can you tell us a little bit about kind of the role of ambassador, what that looks like? And I know, Carlee, you kind of mentioned, before we kicked off the recording, that there's some type of application process for becoming an ambassador. Can we just kind of dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, so when I first got connected with Artemis, I was a member. When I first got connected with Artemis, I was a member to begin with. I got connected with Artemis through the Georgia specific Artemis ambassador. At the time, it was Gina Rogers, and they had a fireside chat webinar where they would bring in women leaderships, they would bring in women leadership positions to just kind of talk about their expertise. And I absolutely fell in love with the program then. And when I was moving to the state of Ohio, I decided that I was ready to move into this crawling to walking role with Artemis and applied to become an ambassador. And so my role now, switching from a member to an ambassador, is taking on a little bit more of a leadership role. But as Carlee mentioned, we are lifelong learners. As I've been networking with other women in Ohio and Illinois, I realized that there's so many different kinds of people out there that have such specific skill sets that we can all just learn from each other. In Ohio specifically, we're trying to grow our membership right now with some of the ambassadors being the ambassadors in that state being their first year or second year with an ambassador there. Same thing with Illinois. We're just trying to build networking right now, but ambassadors in other states have held some pretty amazing programs so far. There are some longstanding turkey and deer camps where they do teach people that have never gone hunting before this opportunity. They have a lot of networking, like I mentioned, so like pint nights and the webinars, like the fireside chats that Georgia hosted and still hosts. We have a national happy hour that the ambassadors will take turns hosting. There's actually one this Friday. I'm not sure when this comes out, but this particular webinar will be about hunters' perceptions of CWD and must be like a nice little chat about what's going on. And a really cool event that I wish I was in Alaska for was talking about like motor skills and trailer skills. So there is a whole plethora of programs that the ambassadors can host, and they have the perfect opportunity to highlight not only the ambassador's skill set, but the need of the community.
That's fascinating. I really like, you keep hinting at these, networking ideas. I think that is, for us is the Learn to Hunt program. We do a lot of, research looking at what are the constraints that people face in terms of, being, participated in hunting specifically. And, there's some really consistent themes. Obviously in Illinois, hunting access and opportunity is far up on that list, but just beneath that is this concept of, I have nobody to hunt with. I have nobody to, teach me new skills, just to bounce ideas off of back and forth. So I think that those, programs specifically are so unique and so interesting. I like that a lot.
So getting into kind of like the nitty gritty of it all, like how as an ambassador can you plan one of those? Like how do you get resources from the main organization, and what's your freedom like of trying to plan something? How's that process get going? Like how free are you to do whatever you like versus approval like from the main organization?
Go ahead, Ashlyn. Sorry, I was having trouble with my microphone.
Yeah, so like I said, and like Carlee has mentioned, like we all bounce ideas off of each other. So I've never personally felt constraint as an ambassador. My specific skill set, I'm not going to be the type of person that can teach you the ins and out of a shotgun or take you to sight in your rifle, just because that's not where my expertise lies. But yeah, the program as a organization definitely allows the ambassadors opportunity, to just play into their skill set and see exactly what is the need of the community and the skills that the ambassador has. And I feel like Carlee maybe has some elaboration on that.
That, and also, again, I guess leaning on that network that we've established, right? There's a lot of other sportswomen and a lot of other sporting organizations like yourselves, right, that are already doing awesome work. And so Artemis, while we have ambassadors that are building those connections, one, we love to partner with people, and two, we really want to elevate the work that everybody else is already doing. So instead of being in competition with many of these people that are already hosting events, right? So either partner with an event, bring our community and our really our membership base to your events is equally, hopefully, as valuable. And then really that educational pipeline that can propel our members into leadership positions.
Mhm.
So we want our ambassadors to really be able to, we want them to be a complete and bold sportswoman, which is really being at some point, so developing their skills such that they can be an expert in each one of those arenas.
That's great that you, oh, go ahead, Ashlyn.
Sorry. And Dan,
Good.
really quick, I wanted to touch bases on, I'm curious, have you actually engaged with a lot of the researchers like Southwick and resource management regarding women in hunting and angling?
Yes, quite a bit.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll send you a webinar. It's called What Women Want. And they rolled this out a little earlier this year. Did you get a chance to watch it?
I think I might have missed that one. Was that with Southwick?
It was with resource management and the Council to Advance Hunting and Shooting Sports.
Mhm.
And so they did a really great production that offers a lot of information and data. And I can send that link to you to add to the show
That'd be
notes.
fascinating. Yeah,
Mhm.
perfect. Yeah, and see that's what I find so intriguing about this whole realm of R3, you know, in terms of a scope and kind of a discipline for lack of a better term. But it's so early on in kind of the long-term development of R3 as a strategic approach that states utilize to bring new people, whether it's people who just never had the opportunity, whether it's people from underrepresented groups. It's just so fascinating to see the data sharing and the collaboration that you just kind of hinted at, Carlee, amongst these different groups. And I think Artemis is, you know, from the outside, it seems like is in a perfect position to really pivot and utilize a lot of these programs additionally, but provide this level of skill development, this level of networking and kind of social capital that may have already been existing from some of those programs. So awesome.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So I'm curious from the Learn to Hunt standpoint, how have you, what sorts of things have you done to both engage women and to keep them there instead of really maybe allowing for more churn? So we usually see more churn of women. And Ashlyn, for your information, churn rates, and gentlemen, please let me know if I'm saying this correctly. A churn rate is when somebody is actually like primed or gets introduced to hunting or angling, and they have a small experience and then they depart.
Mm-hmm.
And so it talks about those churn rates overall.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on. You know, we use it a little differently because we utilize license buying data for a lot of our research. So we look at it as, did they purchase a license, you know, 2 of the past 3 years, and then all of a sudden they dropped off and they're no longer a quote unquote customer. That's what we consider churn. So definitely some distinct, you know, similarities there.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so what, I guess, have you noticed any patterns with women in Illinois in particular?
Sure. That's a fantastic question. We have kind of 2 approaches that we as a program have used, you know, fairly recently. And, you know, we're still, in terms of R3, a fairly new program. You know, we started in 2017, so very similar to when Artemis was founded. And obviously COVID, you know, slowed a lot of things down, but we've progressed a lot as a program. And some of our early efforts, specifically that relate to women, and it's something we'd like to get back into. At the time, we had a female staff member, so that did make things a little bit more approachable, I think, from that perspective. But we partnered with Pheasants Forever and a few other organizations, and we held what we called Women, Wine, and Wild Game events. So these were really focused on, like you guys have hinted at multiple times, this networking approach. So we had, you know, a whole smorgasbord of different wild game, you know, options. We had boar, we had bear, just kind of a little bit of everything, but it was really structured around developing outdoor skills. So we had an archery station, we had, you know, a casting station, we had a wild game station where, you know, you can learn from an expert on how to properly handle and package wild game to make sure, you know, you're getting that wholesome yield that we're all striving for when we hunt. And so that was one of our big approaches early on. Since then, we've also transitioned to what we have designated as family outdoor days. And a lot of our market research showed early on that a lot of the women that are participating in our workshops were doing it because they want to be able to pass that along to their kids. That was very evident from both focus groups and surveys, that this motivation of, I want to be able to teach this skill set to my kids.
Mhm.
So we developed this kind of series of events we call Family Outdoor Days, very similar to the, kind of women, wine, and wild game idea, where we have several stations set up focusing on skill development. At the last Family Outdoor Day, we had archery, we had hatchet throwing, we had fly casting, we had normal fishing, we had skeet shooting, air gun shooting, a whole plethora of different skill sets. But what we have found is if you can get the whole family, chances are they're not going to churn out. So that's what we've really been focused on, as kind of, our two primary approaches. But we're also very cognizant about the imagery and the messaging we try to use throughout all of our, promotional or different infographics and different videos that we produce. We try to use messaging that is consistent and open. And I think that's been our biggest, I guess, success of the program, is that we really focus on being inclusive to literally everybody and anybody. And I think that just kind of starts to carry over and trickle down, and word of mouth has really, helped us out quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. Yes, we'll definitely highlight you as well on our social media sites.
Cool. Yeah. We'll have to plan some events here. I like this.
Ashlyn, here you go.
We will definitely have some events before I have to go back to Ohio. Don't you worry about it.
Yep.
And so you jumped and asked about the application, about how to apply as an ambassador. And so typically it's an annual application. And so when Ashlyn departs, I'm wondering if we could maybe if you find somebody that is really ideal to potentially hand off the torch to, perhaps we could do something that's a little bit more informal. But typically what the application period looks like is a 1 month long opportunity for sportswomen across the country to really share, one, what brought them to Artemis, two, why they think Artemis is valuable, what conservation issues they are looking at or dealing with in their particular neck of the woods, and like hunting ethics as well. So we're really looking for individuals that have a small to medium to large knowledge base, in addition to wanting to establish and build the community in their area. And then lastly, want to continue to grow and learn about conservation issues that we're facing in their state, and then also bring them into, or I guess educate them more so on the federal issues that, say, National Wildlife Federation is cued in on right now. And so all of those things those are some of the criteria that we're looking for in the application process itself. We are currently, it's mid-April, we're hoping to announce our next cohort, so our 2023 cohort, by the end of this month, and getting them all signed on in the next week or so. And
awesome.
So we're very encouraged. The sportswomen that apply are just like, I don't know, there's just
does it humble you?
I'm sorry,
does it humble you?
Oh my gosh, it's humbling, it's thrilling. Like, these are the people that I'm like, I just can't wait to surround myself with.
Can we be best friends?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Exactly. So I feel so fortunate to be in this role and to interact on a daily basis with our awesome ambassadors. And so we'll be announcing those soon. We did not actually get anybody to apply from Illinois. So this is maybe a foot stomp.
Yep, we've got some work to do. Yep.
Yeah. Please. Yeah. Share the word so that we can have some sort of I guess imprint there that is maybe a partner with you.
Mm-hmm.
So
that'd be great.
Now, in terms of the ambassador program, is it structured so that you try to focus, people in priority geographies, or is it really just we find the right people? Is that kind of the more important piece of the puzzle?
It's definitely a combination of both. And so in some states we have no ambassadors, in other states we have 3 ambassadors. This particular, I've been using the word particular a lot. This year, we actually looked more for our Midwest states. So we were looking, I don't know if North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas.
Yeah, they're kind of on the fringe.
Those considered Midwest. and Nebraska. So those were the states that we were looking to get an ambassador in. That was really where our biggest hole was this last go around. But we were open to applications across the board. And so we really did get a large swath of applications.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends is the answer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Ashlyn, can you tell us a little bit about that application process kind of from your end?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I remember when I was thinking about applying, I had reached out, again, always got to bring it back to Georgia. I gotta love the home state. I was talking to the R3 coordinator that runs through Georgia Wildlife Federation. So like a branch off of National Wildlife Federation. And I was asking Bree about her thought with working in conjunction with Artemis and what she thought about the program. And I am an adult onset hunter, and I also self-identify as a baby adult. So I felt very overwhelmed by the thought of being a teacher when I still felt like I had so much to learn. And like Carlee has been alluding to, this is not a program for experts to be like, you do not have to be an expert to be an ambassador. If you are an expert, please apply. We would love to collaborate with everyone. But I personally felt discouraged by my lack of knowledge, and that is not the case at all for this program. I just sent out an application. I had just moved into my apartment in Ohio, starting my first semester of graduate school, had 1,000 things to take care of. And the first thing on my mind was, where am I going to hunt this year? I hear this big old story of the Midwest having these monster corn-fed deer, and how on earth am I supposed to get in and have an opportunity to harvest one of these animals? So yeah, I applied, got lucky, and my skill set was exactly what Artemis needed in the state of Ohio at the time, and haven't looked back since.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. So how have you found it moving from Georgia to Ohio to Illinois?
Yeah, Carlee and I were actually talking about that yesterday. And to toot y'all's horn, like the program up there, like the Learn to Hunt Illinois program, was such a great opportunity, because as we kind of talked about during the turkey workshop where we met, the rules are so much different in Georgia than it is in Illinois. When you guys mentioned the FOID card, I immediately was like, what on earth are we talking about?
Yeah.
Like, I have never even heard about that. I've never hunted in the snow. I've never driven in the snow before 3 years ago.
And you came to a turkey workshop in the snow.
Yeah.
I know. Yes, I almost didn't show up because it was snowing, but I'm really glad I did.
Same.
Yeah, we were worried that people weren't going to show up. We had more people there. The next day we had it was like 70 and sunny, and we were a couple hours south. But and that one only had a handful of people compared to about the 10 or so that showed up to the snowy one.
Wow. We had some determined
That's
turkey
right.
hunters up there. But yeah, one of the great things about Artemis specifically is that because it is a national program, it has made the transition. There are still definitely limitations, again, with the differences between Georgia and the Midwest when it comes to hunting. But Artemis is like, you can literally jump from state to state to state to state, and there is a community of sportswomen that just want to empower you and teach you, and has definitely helped the transition go as smoothly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
So with the ambassador program, once you become an ambassador, is there a time limit on that, or how's that work?
So it's a 2-year time limit, but we do offer our ambassadors an opportunity to extend for an additional term. And we are actually working out the charter and the role, more so the role description, so that we can codify like what truly the ambassador program is going to be in the next 5 years. Because we have, like I said, we've got rock stars. So I think that it's very sad to cycle them through and then see them go. And so we're working on developing and crafting an alumni program that still allows our prior ambassadors, our prior leadership team members to stay more so engaged than just the member, I guess, level of engagement with the overarching program, and really serve in a capacity that they are advisors or mentors to future ambassadors or current ambassadors, where they can partner with current ambassadors to continue providing events and planning events that they initially started. And so, again, all of this is in the works, but that 2-year time limit is what we have right now. And then we are looking to extend a couple, and we have previously. So this is the, I guess, 3rd iteration since having ambassadors on the ground.
Cool.
That's really cool. We kind of want to steal your idea.
Anytime. Happy to send you the draft charter.
Yeah, we have a couple. We have a couple people that come to a lot of our events, and we call them frequent flyers. We would love to help build that out and have ambassadors and help us get, because that will really help diversify our content immensely by offering that to folks and having that be like a grassroots build up from the ground and having the buy into the program like that. So we're happy that you guys. It's just such a great idea.
It is, and oh, go ahead.
Would you do something like county wise or regional wise in the state, or
probably regional is kind of what we'd probably focus on? Yeah, because in Illinois, you can almost divide Illinois into like 2 states: Chicago and kind of the greater Chicago metro area, and then the rest of the state. So it would probably be somewhat divisible, close to that. But
I mean, there's 70% of the population lives in Chicago area, so it's pretty concentrated.
Yeah, 9 million out of 12 million.
Yeah,
right there. So
yep.
Wow.
But yeah, I really love that you guys focus so much on the skill development, especially in an area where there's not a lot of opportunity. In terms of like women-centric events in Illinois, it's really a lot of times relegated to the Illinois DNR wing shooting clinics that they put on. Some of those clinics will be focused entirely on women or focused entirely on youth. But seeing that a group that kind of forms and fills this special niche, I think is incredible. Now, could you talk a little bit about the role that NWF plays in Artemis? I know kind of their, your overarching, and obviously probably a few of the advisory board members are probably a part of NWF, but could you talk just a little bit about that relationship?
Of course. So I guess I would like to give a little bit of background. So the National Wildlife Federation is based out of Reston, Virginia, but we're a national organization that is focused on wildlife advocacy issues at both with state level senators and also kind of the national, really that national advocacy engagement. And so one thing that I guess, again, the background of this is National Wildlife Federation was started by a duck hunter, Ding Darling. He was really instrumental in, crafting this organization, this huge nonprofit organization. We now have 7 million members, which is awesome.
Jesus, that is.
Right, it's huge. Yeah, it's huge. And so where Artemis falls is under the public lands team, right? Because hunting and angling are typically, I guess most people partake in those activities on public lands, unless you're in states with very few public lands.
Illinois.
I know.
Yeah,
and
we have 1% public land.
Yeah.
1%.
1 to 2.
It's like 1.8, but a lot of it is non-huntable acres. So it's probably, in terms of huntable acres, it's probably about 1%.
We're on the bottom.
Wow. And so I was telling Ashlyn, I was like, I guess I don't really know much about Illinois and hunting in Illinois. Like my experience is primarily out west, where there is just tremendous amounts of public land, right?
Yeah.
Where if you want to hunt, you go hunt. So
yeah,
Illinois is very a archery deer state is kind of the easiest way to describe it. And the vast majority of that, I think we did the Human Dimensions Lab here at the university did a hunter harvest study last year. And one of the questions looked at what percentage of people hunt public versus private. And it's 70% of our hunters hunt private versus, a very small portion hunt public. So,
and then all the new hunters that we're dealing with
are pretty much all public.
Yeah. So
fits right in with kind of what you were, describing there.
Are you actually working to connect them with private landowners? And is there an option for like a location where they can seek and pursue leases in Illinois?
So we, Not necessarily on the lease side of things, but there is a program called the Illinois Recreational Access Program. A lot of states are kind of starting to implement similar programs, but essentially it's DNR will basically lease, for lack of a better term, a piece of private property and then allow the public to utilize it. Now, to get a permit for a lot of these IRAP sites, it is, you know, a lottery-based application. But as a new hunter, again, it kind of the application goes back into the license buying database. And so a lot of times I think it's, again, looking at a 3-year time frame, if you haven't bought 3 consecutive licenses, it kind of classifies you as a new hunter. So you get increased odds through that lottery application system.
Nice.
And
Ashlyn.
that program's growing right now.
Yeah.
They're really working hard to try to accumulate more land and add that into the pile of opportunities.
But back to NWF.
Sorry. Well, really quick, last question. How do you know, just ballpark, how much land they're looking or they actually have that?
Yeah, so the last figure I have in my head, I believe, was from 2021, and it was about 16,000 acres. But I know the next year it was over 20, and they're, you know, rapidly expanding each year. And I assume I'm assuming that this is going to continue to grow. It's such a cost-effective way to increase opportunity and access without having to shell out, you know, millions of dollars and bring out lawyers to do a big, you know, land acquisition where now they have to pay somebody to manage it. They have to hire new staff to manage it. This is a really unique program because they can basically do it for a year or two and then drop out. And in terms of the compensation the landowner gets, the big selling point is they get a wildlife management plan written by a DNR biologist. And so again, in Illinois, with how little public land we have, it is crucially important that we also manage, you know, habitat on private land. And I think this is a very elegant way of doing that. You're increasing opportunity and access, also providing the landowner with some benefits, but also, you know, managing that private land habitat, which is so much of our total state acreage.
So quick Google, we're up to 27,000 acres in 52 counties.
Nice. Thank you for Googling.
Getting there.
Sorry, I should have Googled that before I.
No. I'm
just
just for the listener, not for you. Yeah. No.
Anyway, NWF. So we fall under the public lands program. And within that is the sporting team. And so the sporting team, we have 2 programs. We have National Wildlife Federation Outdoors, which is really this inclusive organization that is more so focused on advocacy. So federal and state advocacy issues that pertain to hunting, angling, etc. So for instance, here in Colorado, we're engaging on a lead-free bill that's I think it might have been introduced already. And so we hope we try to put our fingers on kind of a bunch of those different, I guess, legislative opportunities.
Sure.
There's also they also have an NWF podcast that shares really voices from the field. Have either of you listened to it before?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. And so Aaron Kindle runs that program, and then nested under that is Artemis, and we had several co-founders. And we really fill the sportswomen's niche there. And as you know, we've got our podcast, we have our awesome ambassador cohorts, we have, our social media platforms, we have our events, we have our happy hours, we have really a multitude of things. And we've got some things on, you know, in the works that we're looking at how we can further grow. And so we'll debut those in the future.
Cool. Now, I do want to dive into some of your events a little bit. If you could kind of give us just, you know, what does a standard event look like? Because, you know, from Learn to Hunt program, our events are, you know, 6 to 7 hours. That's really what we're focused on. But I looked at some of the events that Artemis has put on across the country, and a lot of these are like cool weekend getaways and like this whole camp side of things. So can you just, you know, really talk up the events, what a typical event might look like, what to expect, that kind of thing?
Of course. Well, it's turkey season right now, but Ashlyn, do you want to give this one a go, or do you want me to cover down on this one?
All of the events that I have attended as a member have been virtual, so I can speak very highly of those, but when it comes to the in-person events, I think you should take the floor on that one.
we'll go for it on the virtual events. And before you do, I will say that Southwick and Associates just released some research that suggests that for retaining folks that are that have been in the hunting space for quite some time, these virtual events are perhaps the most successful, which is awesome. Right?
Yeah, and what I found really fascinating about that report was the level of satisfaction that people got from attending. Obviously, you would expect it to drop a little bit, and it did, but not near what I would have expected. I would have expected satisfaction to just completely plummet. But, even from our webinars, we've had a few people who have never turkey hunted before. Mm-hmm. And they took a turkey hunting webinar and they sent us a picture. Hey, sat through the webinar the other day and tagged a bird. And it's like, it really is an option for people. It really is. So cool.
I was perusing all your content yesterday. Nice work, guys.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
You have a very thorough, step-by-step everything. So I'm excited to actually learn some things about hunting in Illinois in the future. So
sure.
thanks for producing that. Anyway, Ashlyn, I'll let you touch on virtual events. Sorry for continuing to derail us.
No worries. I also have geeked out over their content before I went to the event where I met these lovely individuals. So yeah, similar to your content, a lot of the webinars that I've attended that Artemis have put on just highlight a sportswoman's expertise for a couple of minutes, whether that's 30 minutes, where they talk about bass fishing and the tips and tricks, which type of lures or baits to use. I'm not an angler.
No, the lingo was good.
All right, the lingo was there. I was nervous my wildlife biology was coming out. But they talk about that. And a lot of these events will have opportunities for the members to ask very specific questions that tailor to their specific needs, whether they're fishing or hunting on public or private lands. They can kind of ask about rules and regulations.
That's very cool.
Mm-hmm. And then for the in-person events, so some of them are an hour, right, like a pint night, or 2 hours, like a trivia night, and some of those actually, and then we also have those field those more field-esque skill building events, and those are going to be anywhere from 2 hours to several day events. And so Ashlyn talked about one that we just did in Alaska of looking at outboard motors, troubleshooting them, figuring out what to do on the water, right? Because those skills are equally as important as actually knowing how to
Sure.
Oh, you hang out at a marina. You want some entertainment, go to any marina on a summer afternoon and just hang out, have a picnic next to the marina and just laugh at folks dump a truck in the lake. That's always fun.
Jason, that's not very kind of you.
I'm sorry. I mean, help them out. You spot them. You come over and say, no. Yeah.
The next Learn to Hunt Artemis event in Illinois will be how to not back your truck.
There you go.
All I'm saying is if I was a marriage counselor, I would be parked next to that boat ramp just waiting. We have an ambulance chaser of a lawyer.
I have heard lots of stories. That sounds
it's a thing.
It's kind of a traumatic experience, right? Of there's a line of boats, everybody's trying to put in.
Yeah, it can be stressful.
And you're backing down, zigzagging all the way down. It's
my background is Lake Erie and Lake Michigan, doing research out there in college, and I mean I saw everything you can think of. It's insane. It's insanity. It's fun.
So I did some walleye fishing at Lake Erie last year.
Nice.
Unreal. Also. Yeah, it's just unreal. It was so much fun. So anyway, go fishing.
What time of the year was that?
It was Memorial Day weekend. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to digress too much, but where'd you go out of?
Put in Bay.
Yeah, that's where I worked out on those islands. That's where
really?
Ohio State has the Stone Lab there. So right off the coast of Put in Bay. That's where I met my wife at, was on Gibraltar Island. If you went to Put in Bay, there's a little island out in the middle of the bay there. So that's where we met, on that island there. So it's awesome fishing around that area. Yeah.
What does your wife do?
She works at the university as well. She does, she's an environmental scientist, and but she does outreach for a national program on well testing. So she helps continue education people for well drillers and things. So she works for the private well class, educating people on how to test their wells, but also the people who drill wells as well.
Yes.
As well.
Well as well.
Well as well.
I like it. That's awesome. Very cool. I guess, do you have any other questions about our in-person events?
I don't think so.
No. Did you get a lot of out-of-state people in an Alaska event?
No, I think they were mostly in-state people because it was in
Yeah.
Juneau, so which is
Sick.
pretty tough place to get to. But
Yeah.
It'd be amazing if you could be like, hey man, I'm gonna go for it. Anyway.
Yeah, going to a workshop, heading to
Yeah.
Alaska.
but you can. That's the cool thing is you can
Yeah.
cruise
Oh,
around.
for sure.
and
No,
do
we were
Artemis
talking to the trapper ed folks. They get people from all over the country to go to the trapping workshops, and they're held all over the place.
Last
Sure.
summer, I actually did drive across. I did forget about this in-person event, but Kelly, the Artemis ambassador of Wisconsin, was hosting a pint night event at an apple cidery called Bricks, I believe, and it's right across the Illinois border. So it's only a 2-hour drive from the Chicago metropolitan area. So if the listeners want to join an Artemis event and it's right across the border, like Kelly specifically loved having out-of-state Artemis members coming and joining her event.
Now, what is we kind of have mentioned it a little bit, but can you talk about the membership process and what kind of benefits a member gets and that type of thing?
So great question. We're looking at making it a little bit more robust than it currently is. So right now there's a join us button on our website, and that will subscribe you to our newsletters. And then we'll also on our website, we have really all of our state level Facebook groups and pages, and then our national group for Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, as well as our podcast. So they have typical or the same access that everybody else has to all of these things, but when they become members, they can also, they will inherently attend events. So they can also do the participant approach. Like I said, we're hoping to make it a little bit more robust. And so we're sketching that out now, and
Sure.
I will share that with you when we have finally released it. So hopefully in the next 6 months or so, we've got something that's a little bit more, I think, intentional of bringing them in and making them feel more like community from a just general engagement standpoint.
No, for sure. I think we're working on a similar thing. If you sign up to one of our workshops, we'll give you our newsletter. But from there on, we're kind of it's a la carte with our information. It's everything's free from us. So whatever they want, whatever they're interested in, they can come and find it. So yeah, but building that going back to building that community is so important with our programs.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Ashlyn.
Carlee. To expand on what Carlee said, the state-specific Facebook pages. So in Illinois, the Great Lakes, the Artemis Sportswoman Great Lakes Facebook page is a great place for anyone that is interested to join. And all of the time you see people sharing events. I actually shared the Turkey Learn to Hunt event within that Facebook page just to see if there are any other Illinois Artemis members that wanted to tag along and come with us. But yeah, the Facebook page not only is a great place for ambassadors to share events that are going on locally in the community, but I have seen other people ask, like, what would be the best thing to wear for this specific season, for this specific event that I'm doing, if people can give opinions and advice. I know in some other state specific pages, people have mentioned, you mentioned mushrooming earlier. I think Curtis joined, and that is what, yes. But I've heard people say that someone has been like, hey, I'm in this particular county about to go look for mushrooms. Does anyone want to join? And the Artemis Facebook page is a great place to post that and look for someone to come join you, or to find someone that knows how to ID them maybe a little bit better than you do.
Sure. It sounds like just a good resource to meet like-minded people. I think, when I obviously, started hunting at a relatively young age. I was about 15 or 16 when but I really didn't duck hunt as an example. And when I first started getting into duck hunting, there's a lot of just language barriers, lingo. You don't know what questions to ask, and just having a resource where you can just bounce ideas off and things. That's cool. I like seeing those kind of natural, circles just start to develop, and that's neat.
Mhm.
Well, we're kind of starting to run out on time. Is there anything you guys kind of want to chime in or add before we kind of give a nice send off?
I think my only thing that I am wanting to add is, have either of you read the book, The Life and Death of the Great Lakes?
I have
No.
not.
Guys, that's
Sorry.
the most I know about.
Put it on
That's
my
the most I
list.
know about the Great Lakes and Illinois, but it talks about, I mean, it just talks about truly like how we have both devastated those lakes, how we've
Yep.
managed invasive species in those. So you likely already have all this information, but from being an external person
Sure.
with very little knowledge and information about the Great Lakes, I thought it was really enjoyable, and it might also be a great maybe like educational piece in some of your coursework,
Okay. Mhm.
because they actually talk about a lot of the like conservation and ecological and practitioner approaches to what we did with a lot of particularly invasive species. But
Mhm.
anyway, fascinating, highly
That's
recommend.
cool. I'll add it to
Yeah.
the list.
Yeah, no, I have. Yeah.
We actually just did an episode last week where we kind of looked at some of our favorite, books and movies that talk about hunting and stuff. So
Mhm.
I've got a nice list going. I'll add that one right to it.
No, for sure.
Yeah, do you guys have any recommendations of things we need to read?
One of my most favorite one, and I'm about 3/4 through. It's I don't want to say a slow read, but it's one of those I can read a little bit, put it down. But it's called The Epic Chase: The Story of Hunting in America. But it's really this unique depiction of the overall picture of how hunting started, from early settlers and just moving all the way through the conservation era, to the exploitation area, then to the conservation area, then to kind of some of the modern issues. But I think it's a really unique kind of snapshot into just the totality of what hunting has really become in this country, but also how much of this country was built around hunting and trapping and just using these natural resources. So that's one I highly recommend. And then another good one, if you're really interested in kind of the fur bearer or the trapping side of things, is Fur, Fortune, and Trade. It's very similar to the Epic Chase, except it really focuses on just trapping. So it looks at, how fundamental beaver trapping and the fur trade was to early colonizers, as well as, through the 1900s, and really cool book. So those are kind of my two recommendations that you may not have heard of yet.
Curious, thanks. Yeah, I'll definitely
Yeah.
check this out.
Mhm.
Appreciate it. I always enjoy another good read.
Yeah, same.
Mhm. And I just wanted to plug your podcast again. I think the Artemis podcast is a phenomenal podcast. It's very well produced, and the amount of podcasts
The
you guys
consistency,
do.
yeah.
I believe it's weekly, unless you guys take a break.
We're now doing every other week.
Every other week? Okay.
But yes, but yeah, my predecessor and the other Artemis staff, Ashley Chance, they've done a really phenomenal job. I think that was my first interaction with Artemis, was listening to those podcasts, and they're just, between storytelling and just learning about the extreme nuances of whatever species. I agree. I think that they were, as a consumer of them, I loved them.
And the neat thing about a lot of those episodes is they're not time sensitive, so you can go back and they still hold up. I know, when we first started talking together and planning to sit down, I went through some of the old episodes, and a lot of what's discussed is still as relevant today as it was when it was released. So definitely worth looking through the catalog. You'll find a lot of neat stuff.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for promoting us. We appreciate
it. Oh, we're happy to. So the Facebook page, is anywhere else that they can find information about you at?
So Artemis Sportswoman on Instagram. So we have kind of those national pages, and then our website, which is artemis.nwf.org. And that will take you to events. You can read about our co-founders, our ambassadors, our staff. You can learn about what it means to be an ambassador, and also read some of our awesome blog posts, which we're hoping to produce more in the near future.
Cool. I'm a sucker for written content, so I'll have to keep an eye out for that. I like that.
We've got a couple recipes in there too. I think there's a
Oh,
good squirrel one.
You can never have enough recipes. Gosh.
No.
Awesome. Well, with that, I think we'll just say thank you guys for joining us today, and look forward to hopefully working with you guys in the
Curtis here. I
future.
do have I've
Oh,
got a
Curtis.
question. I got a
What's up?
question. Hey Ashlyn, hey Carlee. Curtis, I joined in late, so sorry. But just thinking about this, so this weekend we're going to be meeting with Ashlyn to do about this diversity commercial that we've been talking about. Whose permission do we need to do like a little short, basically looking for a Illinois-based ambassador? Do we have to call Miss Artemis herself and get the approval for that, or how do we do
Yeah,
it?
yes, that's the best way of doing it. Talk to the Greek goddess for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh,
Is that smoke signals or not up on my,
I mean, all those things work. I would like you to use your creativity, whatever you found best to
There
communicate.
you go.
So I will get back to you on that. I just have to run that by my leadership, but it should not be an issue.
Sure. Yeah, because like selfishly, we really want, somebody in Illinois to, because I mean, I feel like Illinois is ripe because what we have here, due to our lack of public land and just our density of population in cities, all the people that are interested in the outdoors, whether they're, men, women, whatever they are, they're islands, they've got nobody to go to because our outdoors people are so spaced out here that I feel like any group like this where people can belong and find people they feel comfortable with for advice is awesome. So Illinois needs it big time, and whatever we can do to help make that happen, we're for it.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Let's definitely make it happen. And Ashlyn can fill that gap in the meantime. So
Mhm.
at least while she's there.
Cool.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you guys for joining us today. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. We had a blast, and thanks for letting me go down every rabbit hole possible.
You bet.
Yeah, I want-
Lots of
I-
detours, lots of
Rabbit holes,
derailments.
Did you all ask them about adventures in the beginning? You all have hunted some cool places. You got to leave us with an adventure story, right?
An adventure. Ashlyn, you can go first.
I have a great one. We brought up duck hunting a little bit ago.
Yeah,
I
it's
went on
the
my
best.
very, very first duck hunt last October. It was through a similar program to Illinois Learn to Hunt, but run through Ohio State University, where I'm currently in graduate school. And it was an opportunity for new hunters in general, or in my case, new duck hunters, to go to Winus Point Marsh Conservancy, which I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with, but it is one of the oldest duck clubs in the nation. And it's very member based. They do a lot of work with marsh restoration. And they took a group of about 10 individuals, 10 college students up to go on their very first duck hunt.
Cool.
And we got the whole show. They put us out in punt boats. We had their guides that the members have access to. The program was also sponsored by Delta Waterfowl, and they are going to put out an article about it soon. But one of the participants was actually a student that I was her TA. So that was her first hunt ever. And it was a beautiful sunshiny morning, absolutely no wind, which, if you're familiar with duck hunting, is the worst case scenario. So we get out there to this beautiful marsh, and we're sitting there for about an hour, and this honker of a mallard comes out, and the student, the person I was hunting with, had the cleanest shot. And I'm sure every mentor has felt this way. Like, when you harvest an animal, it's definitely a amazing experience, but when watching someone else harvest their first animal is 10 times better.
Absolutely.
She smoked that thing.
Cool.
It went down. It was massive. And they always tell you, like, if you like, if the for the new hunter, like, let them feel it out first and then you react how they react. We both were screaming and crying like little girls. And to make things even better, I got 2 more ducks right after that. So we were the only all-girl participant group, and we came back with the most ducks,
That's
which
awesome.
was definitely awesome. And yeah, it was an amazing opportunity. One, just to have the opportunity to hunt at Winus Point, like that is a once in a lifetime opportunity. But for the rest of the semester teaching that student, I was like, we're like best friends now.
You're connected.
Like,
Yeah.
like we are soul sisters. I watched you harvest a duck. So that was definitely my favorite, most recent adventure
awesome.
hunting.
Do we have time? I can share a little.
Yeah.
I can share a
I was
little
just
bit.
respecting your all's time. If you want to sit here and talk for another hour,
Yeah,
I'm down.
yeah.
I was just trying to be polite. But yeah, no, go ahead. Tell us a story. I know you got a couple. Go for it.
Oh, I think you might be muted.
Or your mic's out.
How's that?
There you go.
There we go.
All right. Sorry. Thank you for letting me know that I was pressing the space bar and it wasn't working. So mine is not nearly as I guess group focused or like community oriented. Mine was a little bit more. It was the first time that I had really felt a lot of fear, I think, in the backcountry. So I was out. I had a muzzleloader tag for an elk this last year, and we had I was out with my dad, and we had hiked all day up and down these ridges. I mean, we had put on 9 miles going straight up and straight down mountains, and I actually missed. I was about 230 yards away from the elk before the wind shifted, and then they were gone, unfortunately. And so on our hike back, and that was around dusk time frame, and so on our way back, we cruised down really this super steep gully. Like this, it was actually nerve-wracking to go down. But I had a couple of, I don't know, like the hair on the back of my neck stood up at one point on my way down. And so I glassed around with my headlamp, and there were like 3 or 4 sets of eyes kind of moving around. And I was like, oh, they're deer. It's no problem. It's no problem. It was not a deer.
Newsflash.
Yeah, shocker. And so both my dad and I got like a little bit nervous, but also just kind of stuck together a little bit more and continued down. But one of them had flanked us, came around front, and was maybe 15 yards away. And have you ever seen anyway, it's a mountain lion. Have you ever seen a cat like move their head, like trying to get the depth perception?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Their head that's what the eyeballs were doing.
Oh.
I have never in my life gone from like, this is a intense hike back to like, this is bad. This could be very bad news. Anyway, we shouted. The cat, for the most part, we think disappeared, but they're so quiet.
Yeah, you never. Yeah,
it definitely had to have stalked us the whole way back. But it had to be a couple young ones and their mom. And
Sure.
When we got back to the campsite, you think for some reason that a paper thin tent is going to protect you from it, which is not realistic at all, right? But anyway, I think that was the first time. So I've never seen a cat in the wild, and that was really the first time, like my first interaction, that was a little too close for comfort for me. But
Sure.
Anyway, came out unscathed, no problem.
And now you got a heck of a story out of it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
For sure. But yeah, that was definitely you start sweating, like that's the adrenaline like kicks in. And yeah. Anyway,
Now, what state was that in?
Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So it was a great hunt. I missed an elk, but also I saw my first cat in the wild. So
Yeah,
silver lining, and I'm also still here.
you
There
bet.
you go. That's all that matters.
That's
cool.
awesome. I think you all like captured hunting so perfectly, because one of you had an awesome, fun story. One had an uncomfortable story, but basically those become the memories that make up who we are. And those are
Right.
things that wouldn't happen, if you don't push yourself to go outside and do new things. And so, yeah, it's awesome. I always like to ask people about adventures, because when you hunt, when you fish, when you trap, you're doing stuff outside, you can always think of adventures. Whereas if you go
Mhm.
to your friends that do stuff inside and you ask them that question, they're going to look at you like you just farted on their dinner, because adventures, people don't have adventures. What are you talking about? But yeah, so awesome. You knocked it out of the park. Cool. Good. I'm done. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all. Thanks for having us today. This
Thank
was
you.
really,
Yeah,
really
this
fantastic
was
to be
great,
with you.
and I look forward to continuing this conversation.
Yeah.
For sure. Me too. So, and thanks, Ashlyn, for being the nexus here and connecting Artemis to learn to hunt. I'm excited to see the things that we do in the near future.
Yeah, really, like you guys have been hinting at, form these networks that are already here. Let's just establish them a little bit better.
I think that's my favorite thing about natural resources is just the connection, right? The connection that people have when you talk about hunting and fishing and wildlife, right? Is everybody is like, you just have a general appreciation, right? There's a sense of camaraderie that exists when you connect with somebody that has that similar understanding or similar
Absolutely,
knowledge
yeah.
of what it means to harvest an animal or what it means to be out in a duck blind freezing all day long. It's so I think that there's just something to be said, and I am very appreciative that I have a background in a community that I can lean on and learn from.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yep.
I'll stop talking now. Thank you, guys.
I just remember when Ashlyn said that her and her student were like, "Are we best friends now?" When
sure.
when Dan interviewed me, we were sitting there talking just for the job. I was just like, "Yo, if I don't get this, you want to hang out?"
Like, I'm not interested in the job anymore, but
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like, are we buddies now or what? Like, I don't even know. Yeah.
Well, and that's the other special thing is I think everybody is in awe of each other, right? Ashlyn alluded to it earlier of like, there's so much knowledge that each one of us retains that is so different than everybody else, right? Just a method by which you do something or the different things that you observe, right? I just think it's a very cool space to share those experiences and
100%.
have people hear you out on them and learn from them. So, okay.
Yeah, and actually try them.
Yeah. Just as a podcast producer, can we please all say bye like a normal goodbye?
Yeah, I guess we did do that. Yeah.
Just so I can cut this in. Be like, all right, thank you. All right. Hey, I just want to see now.
Crushing it, Jason.
Doing
We're
well.
gonna have a
Hey,
bloopers section.
I got it. All right. So we'll see you guys later. Thank you guys for coming today, and we really appreciate your time.
Yes, thanks for having us. We were happy to be here, and I'm excited to see where this goes. Ashlyn, awesome work. Thanks for connecting.
All right. You guys have a good afternoon. We'll see
Thank
you
you.
around.
Bye, guys.